Hey guys, good afternoon. It's afternoon here, and we are in the first week of November in 2022. Kind of a chilly day here on the central coast of California. I'm only looking at about 60 degrees out here in the garage. So that's not too bad, I guess. I had a cold start today though for the morning walk. I'm going to be loading some 380 stuff today, and the real significance of that, heavy on the Sig, is this brass that I'm going to be using. This is some Sig Sauer brand new brass, and I'll show you about that here in a second. But just kind of a quick story here first. I only started shooting 380 a couple years ago when a very good friend of mine, Catherine, started shooting, and she got a little Smith & Wesson 380 EZ, nice firearm. I wouldn't mind having one myself. But since then, I've picked up two. I have the Sig P238, that little I think it's 2 3/4 inch barrel, and I have a Bersa Firestorm. Both firearms which I really enjoy shooting. They're both nice. Of the two, I really like that Bersa for the price point. It's a nice firearm, straight shooting little rascal. But anyway, we're going to be using some cast bullets here, the Lee 356-95-RF. Okay, that's proven to be a nice little bullet, 95 or so grains to shoot out of the 380s. Inexpensive, cheap little round to cast. Mine come out at 98 grains. And we're going to use Winchester 231 powder and this Sig brass. Well, so lately I've had trouble finding 380 brass at my indoor range to scrounge. And I think that's partly due to the pandemic. Folks just aren't shooting as much as they used to. And it's been hard for me to find any 380 brass. And I lose about 1/3 of the brass. Both of those firearms that I have tend to launch brass over the front of the shooting station where I can't retrieve it. I get some of it back, but about 30% of it just goes bye-bye, and I never see it again. Someone else is getting it. So I've picked up a little here and there, but I'm not keeping up. I'm getting behind on brass. So I was going to buy some brass, and as you know, brass has been hard to find lately, in some calibers more than others, and 380 was kind of hard to find. I did get some range brass that I actually bought last year that we used for a while, and I still have a little bit of that left. But anyway, I'm getting short. So I went looking for new brass. Well, Starline didn't have any ready to go, and there wasn't any around at any, Mid-South, Midway, Brownells, the places that I normally, look for brass. Couldn't find any. And so I thought, well, I'll just buy some new brass and put myself on the waiting list at a couple of those places. Well, Midway came up and said, well, we've got some Sig Sauer new brass. And I looked at it, it was expensive, 30 cents a case. But then I kept looking there at Midway, and they had primed Sig Sauer 380 brass for the same price. And I thought, well, that's kind of a no-brainer. If I can get the brass already primed, why would I buy the other stuff and then have to prime it myself if I can get it already primed? So that's what I've got here, and I've never shot pre-primed brass ever before. So let's take a look at this brass and do some quick measurements on it and see what it looks like. All right, here we go. It says 380 auto, 100 count prime. All right, there's the label. Okay, if we look around here, that's all there is on the front, nothing written on the bottom. On the back, elite performance ammunition components, premium quality, metallurgical standard, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Case weight and interior volume are held to the strictest tolerances. Well, we'll measure some of these and see. Flash hole precision pierce for proper alignment. And then some warning says, you know, basically don't shoot this stuff. And a lead warning. Okay. I don't see anything in here that says anything about what kind of primers those are. So I just ripped the top off of this. Let's take a look at a piece of this stuff. Okay, so there's the primer. I mean, from this point, it looks like, you know, it could be a Winchester primer. Focus in there. There you go. It's good. Notice that brass colored cup. And it probably looks silver to you in the video. That's a little better light there. Okay. Insides are nice and clean. Let's see if it's sized or not, because the box or the bag there didn't say anything about it being sized. Okay, so here's my L.E. Wilson 380 pistol gauge. And here's my piece of brass again. You know, it'll scrunch down in there, but that's a really tight fit. If it's sized, I mean, it's not going to just fall out of there. So I think I'm going to size this stuff before I load it, which means I've got to remove my primer punch pin out of my sizing die. Okay, we don't want to go sizing this stuff and knock those primers out. So we'll take care of that right now and come back. Let's see how these measure out. 0.6775 on that one. We'll do about 10 of these and see how consistent they are. 0.677. 0.676. 0.676. 6765, 775, 676, 677, 6765. One more here. 677. So they're reasonably consistent. Okay, 676 to 677.5. So within 1,500 from case to case. That's not too bad. Let's see how they weigh. All right, I'll have to hold the camera here so that you can see this. So I apologize for any wavering. 52.2. 52.3, 52.2, 52.9, 51.5, 52.1, 51.9, 52.1, 51.9, 52.7. Okay, so they're close. They're all right around 52 grains. We went all the way up to 52.9 on one and 52.7 on another, but so they're within, you know, a grain of 52, so reasonably close, and we don't know how much of that variance is due to variance in the weight of the primers themselves. I doubt that there's much of it there, but some of it certainly would be due to a little bit of variation in overall length of the case. And guys, we ought to measure the thickness of these cases too. So there's 0.10. Let's just go down this row. We're measuring up about the same distance down from the case mouth. 0.11, 0.095. That one was a little, yeah, 0.095. Again, trying to measure the same distance down, 0.095, 0.0995. These are looking fairly consistent. 0.095. That's actually a little thicker than some of my other 380 cases. 0.10. 0.095. 0.0995 maybe. A pretty good consistency there, I would say, at least at that point on the case. That one's a little thicker. Try it another spot. That one's 0.10, isn't it? 0.095 there. So I'm going to call these pretty consistent for thickness of the brass at the case mouth. So let's compare that to a few pieces of Starline brass. This stuff has been fired and it's dirty. But we'll come down here at about the same distance down. Okay, 8.5. 8. 8.5. 8. 8.5. Okay, so that difference may make a little bit of difference in how well the stuff is going to fit. Okay, if I run this stuff into a Wilson case gauge, it sticks up a little bit. I can push it in there. Okay, but that difference in case wall thickness is making just a little bit of difference in how this stuff crimps. With a Starline case, bullets that are sized the way I have them sized here come out at about 0.371 as my crimp diameter right up at the case mouth, and these are 373, and I can't mash them in there any farther than that. So they'll be a little tighter fit. All right, let's go ahead and check our primer seating depth here. They all look good as I was looking at them. 004. Wow, 007. 005. When I was doing the chamfering and deburring, I looked at the primers and they're all seated plenty deep. Look at that one, man. 7.5. 5. So they're all seated plenty deeply. 4.5. All right. And since this is brand new brass, I'm going to chamfer and deburr these case mouths. It doesn't look like that's been done. So just a couple of turns, guys. Okay, we're not trying to make a cookie cutter here. We just want to get rid of the little bits and burrs that might be on there on the outside of the case mouth, and kind of on that inside to create a little bit of a chamfer there to help slide that cast bullet in there a little bit better. And these just go real fast. Notice that I'm doing this over a tray just to catch the little bits and burrs that come off of there. All right. And I don't know if you can see the little specks in here already just from those few that I did. So there are some burrs out there that need to come off. All right, I've got all of those case mouths chamfered and deburred and set into these nice caliber specific loading blocks made for me by 6-shooter Texan. And there were a couple of bonuses in that bag. There were 101 cases, so I had enough to, get my first round all set up and to, to set my overall cartridge length and so on. And living inside one of those cases was a perfectly good free primer. So I'll drag out another one of my cases and prime that one and load it with the rest of these. All right, well, there's a quick analysis of this Sig Sauer primed 380 brass. It is running very consistently, I think. You know, the overall length of the case was within 1.5 thou or so. The thickness of the case wall, very, very close. The weight of the cases was within 1.5 grains or so. So pretty consistent on all those measurements. The only place we saw more variation by percentage-wise was really maybe in the seating depth of the primers. They kind of varied from 0.4 to, I had one that was 0.8. It was really mashed down in there. We're gonna do another video here right after this, and we'll get some of this stuff loaded up and then go shoot it, and we'll see how it performs, make sure that it's gonna cycle and all that kind of good stuff and not jam up because of that increased case diameter that we got up at the case mouth. Okay, for now, that's all she wrote.